What is going on, YouTube people? New York Cards and Comics here. Well, it appears we're getting, in air quotes, real journalism coming to the collectibles space. I don't want to say sports cards because I have a feeling this is going to cover a little bit more than that. Darren Rovell's been teasing this for a couple weeks now, and now we have his next move. Collect Media. In the announcement tweet, he mentions there has yet to be a real media outlet to cover this asset class. Interesting shots fired at Sports Collectors Daily, which I believe has been around for a hot minute covering this, but I don't know what his definition of real media outlet. To be fair, he is not 100% wrong. There is not a lot of real, actual journalism in the space. I don't think it's for lack of trying. It's lack of connections. Darren breaks most of the news stories because he has been doing this for 20 some years, and that gives you a laundry list of names and people in your contact list that you could reach out to get information on stories. I'll be honest, we as content creators, I will not call myself a journalist by any means. As content creators, we hear a lot of nonsense when you reach a certain size and when you begin to meet people and kind of, work your way in and get friendships with people at various companies, and then they move around and all the back end nonsense, relationship building, networking, if you want to use a buzz term there. We hear a lot of stuff. And there's plenty of stuff that I've heard that ended up being true. There's plenty of stuff that I heard that ended up not being true. The tricky part I'll just use myself as an example in this, isn't so much always hearing that something's going to happen. It's being able to confirm it. That's where things get sticky. I've only broken one true news story in the history of the channel going on almost 4 years now. One actual, maybe someone beat me to it. I don't remember seeing that being the case. I think I was the first one to it. And it was when Beckett and Kunal, their former CEO, separated ways. I had that one a couple days prior, was able to confirm it. And like I said, that's the tricky part. Darren has the relationships built with these people to get the double confirmation. At least if you're being actual real journalistic standards, the double confirmation is the hard part. That's the tricky part. There's been times when I had things and, just couldn't get the double confirmation to run with it. And like I said, I don't necessarily consider myself a journalist by any means, but you move in this space long enough, you do build some networking connections. However, like I said, Darren is usually the leader in the clubhouse when it comes to breaking actual real stories on most of this. He breaks probably, I don't know what the percentage is, probably 90% of the stuff. I can't tell you in regards to people that produce content or news. Darren and Paul Lesko are probably the two that I have done videos about something that they have discussed more than anybody else. Probably actually Lesko more than Darren, but it's probably pretty damn close. I'd have to go back and look through the history books. The question is what do you want to see from a air quote, journalistic site in the collectible space? The biggest question is, will they be fair and balanced? And that is the trick with any media outlet. If they have, because the media outlet has to make money. So beyond clicks and views, that usually means ads or some sort of sponsors or whatever the case might be. Where is that money coming from? If they run an ad for Topps Chrome 2024 releasing at the National or whatever, is everyone going to jump to the conclusion that they're on the take from Fanatics? Will they be fair and balanced when something goes sideways at one of these places that maybe they are friendly with? Now, Darren doesn't typically seem to hold back in his stuff. I don't know. The list of the other people are on there. It was in a separate tweet. The only one I'm familiar with a little bit, and I don't know him at all, is Will Stern. He came from Rally Road. I have heard his name bantied around before, but I don't know. I have no relationship or knowledge of any of the other people that are on this. Maybe you all do. I'll leave that up there for a second in case someone recognizes someone there. But I'm not familiar with any of those people, so I don't have any history with them. But that's going to be the real trick. Do they have fair and balanced coverage? We'll be able to tell pretty quickly. The first time, if one of the big companies screws up and, they're dodging it or not covering it or, kind of talking around it, then, you could read between the lines on a lot of this stuff. The other question I have here is, what does this look like in between stuff? Because while there is a lot of news in the collectibles space, is there enough, and I assume they've done the research on this, is there enough to crank out enough consistent content? Like, I cover a lot of the news stuff. That's a large chunk of the channel, is reacting to news and basically giving my take on a particular story, issue, thing in the collective, in the card and comic book world. I guess we'll leave it at that. Is there enough out there to generate a full website on that? I suppose there probably is, depending on what they're getting into, but it's going to be interesting to see how they fill the space in between the tentpole stuff. There is a lot of like bigger stuff that happens, like the collectors acquiring SGC. Does something happen with Golden? That sort of stuff, mergers and acquisitions. Do they lean into the drama side? I shouldn't say drama, but I guess more, like Darren broke the card porn story, so I guess they would lean into that. But how deep down the well will they go in that? If a breaker scams somebody, and that's something like, Sports Card Radio or Dan the Cardman or someone like that would do a video on, and I might even do a video on something like that, or maybe mention it in the weekly sports card market update. Is that something they're going to do? I don't know. Is it, so-and-so hit a monster card and it gets shared all over Instagram like it does? Is that what they're going to do in between? I don't know. Those are the things that I'm curious about. What does this look like when nothing's happening? Obviously there's plenty of stories to write, and I'm sure if they dig deep on the collector side of things, I'm sure there's tons of interesting stories out there that they can go find. And that would be very interesting to look into as well. It doesn't all necessarily have to be news per se, but that is what is going to drive the news, is what's going to drive the clicks and the views. My number one thing that I'm going to be keeping an eye on is the balance. Are they fair and balanced? I have hopes that they will be. It would be nice to have something like this in the space, but I think we all have to kind of sit back and see how this plays out. Darren is the major newsbreaker in this side of the world, so if someone's going to do it, he would be the person to do it. We'll see what it looks like. I am sure they will probably break some stories that I will be doing videos on. What would you like to see from something like this? Is this something that we need? And outside, whatever story they're going to break, what kind of content would you want to see on the in-between times? That, I don't want to say filler content, but a non-breaking news, someone did something, someone bought someone. Like, what would be interesting content there in between that you would want to see or hear? I'll be curious if this will be all written, if there'll be any video component to it at all, or podcasts or anything like that. My guess is it'll start out with writing and then kind of expand from there. If they do well, I would be shocked if they didn't have some sort of podcast or YouTube or Instagram reel, that sort of video style content to complement the writing side of things as well. We'll see what this looks like. As always, interesting times in the hobby. Curious for your thoughts and comments, as always, down below. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.